The World Cup is facing a litany of disgraceful off-field issues. Meanwhile, Julian Alvarez was the mystery 150 mil Galactico. Does Tuchel have a Bellingham and Saka problem? And this championship player is valued more than what Madrid paid to sign CR7. This is DMAC Daily. The World Cup is less than 48 hours away, and oh boy, where do I even begin with the sheer turmoil that is currently unfolding? Now, in the past 6 months or so, in the build-up to football's biggest spectacle, I've spoken at length about the widespread issues specifically linked to this World Cup. From the brazen corruption on display in regards to FIFA's ticketing schemes, the dynamic pricing model, their own ticket resale platform. If there was a Ballon d'Or for scamming, Infantino's the clear winner. FIFA also refused to provide free transport to the millions of visiting fans, a rather baffling move considering it was free in 2018 and 2022 respectively, and taking into account FIFA's projected $13 billion of revenue, surely they could have given the fans in attendance something, anything. I mean, FIFA are technically registered as a not-for-profit organization after all, right? Long story short, this is the most unaffordable and inaccessible tournament in the entire history of the World Cup. It's outrageous stuff, but don't take my word for it. Just listen to the words of FIFA's own illustrious Peace Prize recipient himself, who, when asked about ticket prices to watch the USA's tournament opener for approximately $1,000, he stated, "I wouldn't pay it either, to be honest." So yeah, FIFA have completely sold out. Granted, this is a historically corrupt organization, yet ironically, Sepp Blatter now looks like a saint in comparison to the king of greed, Gianni Infantino, who was a straight up villain, by the way. But unfortunately, this isn't where the problems end, because the political circumstances surrounding the United States in 2026 is causing unprecedented levels of chaos as the tournament is set to unfold. One of the biggest stories right now revolves around Somali referee Omar Abdulkadir Artan. Now, Artan was selected by FIFA as one of the officials for the World Cup and was set to become the first Somali referee to appear in the tournament's history. He had already obtained a visa and traveled to Miami to join FIFA's pre-tournament training camp. However, upon arrival, he was immediately detained, questioned for approximately 11 hours, and ultimately denied entry to the United States, being deported to Turkey, with US authorities citing unspecified vetting concerns as their justification. FIFA then did nothing to rectify this injustice. This referee, who had every right to be there, was rejected for the sole crime of what? Being Somalian? Disgraceful stuff. Meanwhile, the Iraqi delegation has experienced similar hostile treatment. Star striker Ayman Hussein, the player who helped secure Iraq's first cup qualification in 40 years, was detained and questioned for almost 7 hours upon arrival at Chicago's airport. Now, he was eventually allowed into the country, but Iraq's team photographer Talal Salah was not so fortunate. Salah was questioned for more than 10 hours, had his phone searched, and was ultimately denied entry into the United States. This is pure insanity, because this isn't just a regular tourist being denied. These are accredited World Cup participants traveling with a FIFA qualified national team. Then there's Iran. Now, it's less than ideal to have a host nation literally at war with a fellow World Cup participant. The keep the politics out of football crowd are in shambles with that recent development, but FIFA's president ensured that Iran would participate and play their matches on US soil. Fair play, FIFA, for upholding sporting neutrality. Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't really what's happening. 15 Iranian Football Federation officials have had their visa applications rejected. When a US official was asked about this, he stated, "We will not allow the Iranian team to abuse this system to sneak terrorists into the United States under false pretenses." A blasphemous statement, if I've ever heard one. But it gets even more ridiculous. They've also had to move their base camp to Tijuana in Mexico, despite all their games being played in the US. An Iranian Federation spokesperson has since confirmed that the squad will travel under FIFA arrangements and arrive 1 day before its opening match against New Zealand and 2 days before its following 2 other group stage fixtures in LA and Seattle. That is a logistical absurdity never seen previously in a World Cup. But again, it gets even more ridiculous. As of yesterday, Iran's federation announced that its supporter ticket allocation had been withdrawn, leaving traveling fans unable to attend matches that they had planned and already paid for. Now, I fully recognize that there will be some people leaping to the defense of the US's immigration policies and their uniquely strict handling of people from certain countries at this year's World Cup. I'm not in the business of debating the legitimacy of such protocol. It's an unproductive conversation as far as I'm concerned, because no MAGA-loving patriot will analyze this critically. All I can say is that this is an absolute farce of a situation, and I fear it's only going to get worse in the days ahead, considering it's an expanded tournament too. You've got more countries than ever competing, so that's going to be interesting. It's also worth highlighting that if the US and Iran both finish in second place in their respective groups, which isn't all that unlikely by the way, they will meet in the round of 32 at this year's tournament. Could you imagine a reality where the US gets knocked out by Iran a day before Independence Day too? Absolutely mental stuff. There's also instability brewing in Mexico with recent cartel-related violence and broader civil unrests. Teachers' unions have threatened major strikes that could disrupt transport and public services during the tournament, while activists representing the families of more than 130,000 Mexicans who have disappeared have criticized authorities for prioritizing World Cup infrastructure over unresolved human rights issues. What more can I say? I think Ian Wright, who is one of the most respected voices in the game, had a great take on the situation, basically saying that every day there's a new controversy, a fresh calamity with this World Cup, which is why the vibes are so low from many football fans heading into what's supposed to be the greatest show the sport has to offer. Switching gears to club football news, and just when you thought the drama of Real Madrid was over following Florentino Perez's election victory over Enrique Riquelme last weekend, further chaos has since ensued. As we know, both presidential candidates made huge promises to try and win over voters at the last hurdle. With Riquelme, it was Haaland, Rodri and Jurgen Klopp to Madrid, but the inevitable winner Perez ensured the official signings of Mourinho as the manager, free agent Ibu Konate, alongside a 20 mil deal for Inter's Denzel Dumfries. But wait, there was one more addition that had everyone captivated, as Perez also promised to make an offer for, quote, a player which would be the biggest transfer in all Real Madrid's history, at least 150 million euros. Everyone was then desperately trying to figure out who Perez was referring to. The president himself publicly ruled out a Premier League player or Bayern Munich star Michael Olise, so everyone's attention then turned to PSG because there were only a select few players from that club alone that hit the 150 mil criteria, in Desiree Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Joao Neves and Vitinha. However, within 24 hours, a separate bombshell report dropped from the Telegraph indicating that Michael Olise actually is the mystery Galactico Perez has in mind, a report which was then corroborated further by Fabrizio Romano. He said that a 150 mil bid would be tabled on Tuesday. Following this news, Bayern's own president was very quick to hit back, stating Olise will not leave, pushing back against this idea that Bayern are a selling club and that Perez should forget about even trying to pursue a deal. A day later, Olise scored a hat-trick for France, so the football world was eagerly awaiting that official bid, but plot twist, Real Madrid never sent a bid. In fact, Perez was telling the truth all along when he said the mystery player wasn't Olise. It was none other than Julian Alvarez of Atletico Madrid. This is where it gets absolutely bonkers. Now, before we deep dive into this finding, we got to address the elephant in the room. Fabrizio Romano, how did you get this so wrong? I know he's misreported transfer news previously, and in fact, he's come under a lot of criticism of late for increasingly spreading false information, but to get the details completely wrong for a supposed transfer of this magnitude is a terrible look. His credibility has definitely taken a huge hit. Bro's been too busy making AI slop, he forgot how to actually do his job, I guess. Moving forward, I'm not really sure if we can fully trust his sources on transfer scoops. But that's a side note. Julian Alvarez is the mystery Galactico. So on the 9th of June, Real Madrid released an official statement announcing that they had made an offer of 150 mil for Alvarez, and that after reviewing and evaluating the offer, Atletico Madrid has expressed its gratitude for the proposal made within the framework of the good relations between both clubs and has rejected it. I mean, that is just hilarious. I've never seen a club formally announce a failed bid while glazing their rivals. What a farcical statement to make. So Atletico Madrid responded in the least corporate friendly but most understandable way possible. They basically trolled their Madrid neighbors, first by replying to Madrid's Comunicado Oficial with laughing emojis, followed by a lengthy statement contradicting Real Madrid's narrative. They insisted they had not seriously considered the offer, that Alvarez was not for sale, and mocked Madrid's attempt to portray the situation as a respectful negotiation between friendly clubs, saying, quote, for there to be no doubt, we do not thank you for anything. Now, one could argue that Atletico were maybe a tad petty with their responses, but I completely understand where they're coming from. Perez has essentially used Alvarez as a ploy in his election promise. Unlike Riquelme, Perez didn't promise to sign a player, he merely promised to make a bid. So he fed Fabrizio fake news about Elise to win over the Madrid voters and secure the presidency, then sent an unserious bid to rival club Atletico Madrid instead, knowing full well they wouldn't accept, which only hiked Alvarez's price tag further, making it more difficult for Barca down the line. I do now wonder what this means for the Catalan Giants, who were genuinely hoping to bring in the star striker, because if Atleti are rejecting 150 mil without a second thought, then what's it going to take for Barca, or any club for that matter, to actually pull off a deal? So checkmate, I guess, for Perez? I can't help but wonder, why didn't Atleti actually accept the offer for 150 mil in the first place? Reminder, Alvarez had 8 goals in 29 La Liga games last season. Sure, he cooked in the Champions League and is clearly a top player, but 150 mil? Bro, take the crazy money and move on. Let Real Madrid have Alvarez. How would they even fit him in a team with Mbappe, Vini Jr., Endrick, Rodrigo, amongst others? Like, I know the market is ridiculously inflated, but 150 mil for a guy with less than 50 goals in over 100 games? In my opinion, Atletico have drastically overvalued Alvarez. But what's your take on the entire saga? Let me know. Meanwhile, Thomas Tuchel is facing a bit of a dilemma in regards to the selection of England stars Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka for this year's World Cup. Starting with Bellingham, Tuchel has made it clear that no player is guaranteed a starting position, regardless of reputation. Now, while that sounds reasonable on paper, Bellingham isn't just another member of the squad. Ability-wise, he is comfortably England's best player. He's been given the number 10 for a reason. The challenge for Tuchel is that Bellingham tends to thrive when given freedom to roam, press, and influence every phase of play. Tuchel, by contrast, has built his managerial career on structure and tactical discipline, which is why throughout qualifying, Morgan Rogers was often selected ahead of Bellingham. Now, Tuchel has reassured Bellingham's importance to the team by saying, quote, there are like 14 or 15 proper starters and Jude is one of them, but this comment in itself didn't guarantee he will start. I assume he will inevitably have a major role to play in due time. Saka, on the other hand, I'm not so sure, because despite being one of England's best performers in the last 4 years, he enters the tournament with an ongoing Achilles issue. Tuchel even recognized that Saka is not fully fit, that he can't complete a 90-minute game, and has to be carefully managed in training. Perhaps he will play a limited role in the group stages before being relied on in the knockouts, but it's still a big concern for the Three Lions, because it's clear they want to play with inverted wingers on either flank, and the only other inverted right winger available is Noni Madueke, who, let's be real, is not at Saka's level. Alternatively, they could opt for either Gordon, Rashford, or even Rodgers to play this role, but that will slightly complicate the system Tuchel is looking to implement. Interesting times ahead for England, no doubt. Staying in England, and recently relegated West Ham have set their price for in-demand central midfielder Mateus Fernandes, and it's huge, approximately £85 million. Now, on the surface, it sounds completely absurd. We're talking about a player with just 2 Premier League seasons under his belt, both of which have resulted in relegation. Yet this fee would place him amongst the most expensive midfielders in football history. To put that valuation into perspective, Real Madrid paid Manchester United £80 million for Cristiano Ronaldo in 2009, a world record transfer at the time for that year's Ballon d'Or recipient. Of course, football's financial landscape has drastically changed since then. Transfer inflation is off the charts, so comparisons are kind of unfair. But still, the fact that Fernandes is being valued above what Ronaldo cost in his prime is just wild. That being said, I can also very much see a deal of this financial caliber actually unfolding. Nottingham Forest are reportedly demanding around £120 million for Elliot Anderson, and history has shown that central midfield profile is highly sought after in the Premier League. Remember, the previous championship record departure was 58 mil for Lavia just a few years ago, so I think it's about time they broke this record in 2026. I think 70 mil is more likely, but considering the interest of several European giants, it could reach 80 and beyond. Anyways, guys, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. Thanks as always for tuning into the show. I'll see you tomorrow and then every other day from the start till the end of the FIFA World Cup. Take care.